Welcome back to Pass the Knowledge Check, where I teach you some key information, knowledge checks, and general counterplays to some Layer 1 and Layer 2 tactics commonly used by beginner to intermediate level players. In this video, I'll be covering S. Key information: Drive system. All of S's drive attacks leave behind after images referred to as crests that activate after a set amount of time. Usually, she can only have one crest charging on screen at a time, so if a 2D crest is on screen and she then uses 5D, the 5D crest will replace the 2D crest. Crests will disappear if S is hit, blocks an attack, or either player takes a throw. In Overdrive, S's previous limitation on crests is lifted and she can now layer multiple drives on screen at the same time. In addition to this, she gains additional hits on all drive crests, speeds up the startup of her drive attacks, and increases the amount of time that Percival, her install super, lasts for. S can also enhance her specials in two different ways. One with a special called Boars that has a one-time use, and another with a super called Percival, which is essentially Boars but on a timer. Both will give crests to any special that isn't one of her fireballs or her J2B, and change frame rate on those moves, making them more plus on block. Normals. S can jump cancel 5A, 2C, and 2D, a total of 3 normals on block. In addition to this, 5A has 6 frames to start up, hits crouch stance, and is -1, making it strong for stagger pressure, and it also cancels into her overhead 6A. 6A is S's standing overhead at 26 frames of startup, that can be cancelled only from 5A and 2A. While relatively slow, it has foot inborn from frame 4, making it good at beating people trying to mash out of 5A and 2A stagger pressure with foot property attacks. JC is a jump normal that enables a lot of S's scary set play pressure, which will be explained later in the video. And 6B is a strong anti-air that S will get a lot of mileage from if your approaches are too predictable. Specials. S specials include 2 projectiles that she can use on the ground and in the air that also enhance one another if used in specific combinations. She also has a 13 frame DP, a command grab that whiffs on crouches, and a command overhead which doubles as a pressure reset tool if held. Navigating neutral around S's long range sword normals and strong projectile game will require you to be patient and move carefully around the screen. Knowledge checks. Rising overhead JC. JC is a strong rising overhead tool due to its hitbox and speed. However, S can't always capitalize greatly from it. She needs one of the following available to get significant damage reward. Either 50 meter for RC, Boars install, Percival install, or a preset crest. JC is usually converted using the JD or 2D crests. This threat can come from Oki or block strings. Here are some ways S can set it up. A block string with 2D into 226A, followed by a dash rising JC. While resourceless and not needing a hit, it's the weakest setup as it can easily be avoided by simply jumping back or backdashing after the projectile. And the only way to enforce sitting still is through a delayed second projectile that is hard to guarantee will lead to much. The next is a block string with 2D into Mordred 214C, followed by RC, 5A, and then a rising JC. This is stronger as the gap before the rising JC is smaller. The setup can be dealt with by using barrier on the Mordred or the 5A after the RC mid-screen. However, in the corner, this setup is even stronger, and even using instant barrier on both the Mordred and the 5A doesn't let you escape, although this may vary depending on your character's hurtbox. And lastly, we have JD. While requiring a hit, it sets up the smallest gap without the need for RC. To escape this, you can either delay emergency tech to mess up your opponent's timing on the rising overhead, or you can utilize barrier or instant barrier on wake up to push them out of range. The S can also use this by setting up the JD on block. However, the JD needs to be deep and close to the ground. While delaying your emergency tech can help to throw off a player that's on autopilot, a good player will still be able to recognize the situation and adapt their timing to JC you immediately on wake up, while simultaneously checking for any roll attempts, so I recommend utilizing barrier. In the case that you block the JC, punishing raw rising JC is usually a simple air hit conversion. However, when backed by a crest, you will need to instant block the crest in order to get a punish with most characters. Alternatively, you can overdrive through the JC in order to guarantee a strong punish. Lastly, if they do manage to hit you with a rising JC without any way to convert, you need to make sure that you block the likely following JD to ensure that you don't get reset into an actual combo. And a little tidbit, if you have a DP, you can actually punish them for going for the JD after the JC. And if your DP is 9 frames, you will guarantee a punish even if they don't go for the JD after. S has a few grounding moves that leave her airborne, allowing for the opportunity to RC into a quick overhead to catch players out. These are 6D, Mordred's follow-up attack, and a second hit of her DP. These can also let her go for a cross-up JD with an air dash, which you should also look out for from jump cancels after blocking her jump cancelable levels. Enhanced specials. As mentioned earlier, S can enhance her DP, Grifflet, Overhead Gawain, and Lariat Mordred with the Balls or Percival installs. This is not to be confused with Charged Gawain, which I will talk about later. While her DP's enhanced properties only come out on hit, Gawain and Mordred have important differences to note on block. Gawain becomes +4 on normal block, and Mordred becomes +3. Enhanced crests come out even on whiff, so be careful when trying to whiff punish these attacks. If you manage to block Mordred's follow-up, however, you can take your turn back on block or punish on IB. 214A, Erec. Erec is S's command grab that will whiff on crouches, but since it has a similar trajectory to Gawain, the overhead, you may get tripped up. Try to only block high if you see the sword swinging behind her. Projectiles. While there's no particular one answer for navigating these in neutral, I would encourage you in general to not take risky movement options like instant air dash or character specific torpedo moves like lariats that aren't projectile involved. I would encourage you to use super jump, dash barrier break, and dash jump. Try to instant block these in neutral when you can as well for extra meter. S also has a super version of her projectiles that can be shot at 2 angles, so be careful when you're in low health throwing out high committal attacks or high committal projectiles of your own. Percival on wake up. There are some characters, unlike Jen, who can't time their jab on S's wake up to still block DP in time while simultaneously interrupting wake up Percival. In the case that they do use Percival on wake up, know that they recover in the air and her fastest attack there is 7 frames, meaning that if you have a 6-frame jab that reaches, it's still your turn and they have to risk using a reversal to turn the tides. Alternatively, you can use an anti-air as well. Punishing supers and reversals. If an S doesn't have meter available to RC her DP, be sure to take care when you punish, as she does initially recover in the air, so you need to practice the timing for a good consistent grounded punish. The opportunity to punish Palamedes, the projectile super, is going to be pretty rare, as it's pretty much only used to end air combos or to snipe committal projectiles in neutral, but it is -10 at close range, and if you have a stronger projectile super, you can actually counter it in neutral. And lastly, if you're about 3/4 of the screen away, you can use Overdrive to get a punish as well. Galahad is her Lariat super, and this is rarely used as a reversal except for some matchups, but the SS may drop this at the end of a combo or something, so it's important to understand the timing for the punish and practice this in training mode. F-Shikis. S has access to F-Shikis, and the most common one comes from a jump in after Mordred's knockdown. However, there are other situations where she can use it. If your character isn't short enough to avoid it automatically, you can either delay your wake up timing so that the jump in whiffs, or you can instant block it so that your hurt box can crouch in time before she can take advantage of it. General counterplay. Overdriving through drives. S's drives are a core component of her pressure game plan, so using a universal option like Overdrive can be very useful in countering her. Her C normals, drives, and specials without install can all be very weak to Overdrive raid. Here are some examples of how these interact with Overdrive raid in block strings. Overdrive raiding through a 5C will leave S at -9. Overdrive raiding through Mordred will leave S at -15. However, overdriving through enhanced Mordred, as you can see because of the crest, is not an ideal situation. When it comes to drives, Overdrive raid is still strong. However, because of the timing of those attacks, you actually need to slightly delay Overdrive raid to ensure that the drive and its crest does not hit you when you're actionable. If in doubt, you can always use another invincible attack like DP or EA. Alternatively, since the quickest drive startup is 5D at 25 frames when not in Overdrive, it's not unrealistic to try and react to drives with Overdrive instead of using Overdrive raid so that you can get a full timer and an even stronger punish. Pressure sequences. S pressure can feel infinite if you don't know the gaps, so I'm going to cover a couple of sequences and how to interrupt the gaps or make them. 5D into Charged Gawain is one of the more common ones. As Charged Gawain is +3 on normal block, S usually use 5A to take advantage of the situation. If you use Barrier, however, her 5A will whiff and you can whiff punish her instead. If they start to realize this, they may choose to use 5B instead of 5A. Then, you can use Instant Block instead of Barrier on the Gawain. And if they use 5B thinking that you were going to Barrier it, then your 5A or 2A should interrupt their 5B startup. If you'd rather interrupt the Gawain as opposed to playing the RPS, you can either jab it or use an invincible attack. 5D into A Breunor is another common tactic, which will leave S at a minimum of +0. If you can barrier her out during her string before the 236B comes out, you can jump over the 236B and escape. 6D lets S do Airborne A Breunor into an air dash jumping. However, you can almost always jab this if you stand up slightly late to avoid an immediate JBB. Just be aware that the S may fake this by doing 6D into J2B and then going for a 2B low. 2D followed by a double A Breunor will let S dash up for another block string, so you need to either interrupt the 2D or just jump at some point after the first projectile, as there will likely be a gap. One thing to note is that in the corner, 2D might hit too deep to actually lock you down with the crest, which you could then take advantage of. Baiting and punishing 6B. S's love to press 6B as it is really good anti-air, however it does have a weakness that you can exploit. 6B has no normal Gatling cancels whatsoever, which means that to convert it to a combo on hit, S has to go for either Gawain or Mordred, and they usually choose the former, which is interruptible. However, you can also block and take your turn. You can also try to move in a way that will promote S to press 6B, but just land outside of its effective effective range, allowing you to whiff punish it. Some characters can actually use an 8 frame or less poke and hit confirm whether the S cancelled into Gawain or not with a particular string. I will try and find one for your character if you can. J2B, Tristan, is a sort of bunny hop attack that can alter S's aerial momentum. They will often use 2 hits of Tristan on block, which is +0, into a JA or JB. You can actually jab this if you have something quick enough, or use an anti-air with quick inborn frames, bearing in mind that they can frame trap with the third J2B. Thanks for watching, guys. I know this one took a while to come out, but hopefully from now on I'll be releasing one of these a month. So thanks for watching, thanks for waiting as well. If you guys want to support me, obviously like, subscribe, all of that stuff, and I'm gonna have maybe a coffee or a Patreon link down below. This is kind of something I'm doing on the side. I'm trying to get into a full-time job at the moment, so any support is welcome. Thank you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.